And how did you know they were in a fancy dress competition? One second, Mr. Gowda. Mr. Gowda, this is a country. Mr. Gowda, I'm sorry to say this. This is a country which has questioned India's credibility on 26/11. This is a country which has sent terrorists and killed 150 plus people in 26/11. You speak in different voices will only make it worse. You speak in different voices, you will make it worse, and forever you have given Pakistan an opportunity to question the credibility of our claims. This is a country that denies Dawood Ibrahim is in Pakistan. So let's be very clear, don't avoid the context. Maruf is responding.
Let me support exactly what you're saying. One, historically Pakistan for every issue has stuck to straws in the wind. And in the case of even 26/11, one junior bureaucrat statement is now being seen as Pakistan as a face saver that Pakistan was not involved in 26/11. Are we such a bunch of idiots that we don't know that for the last 25 years, the Pakistan army has made an industry of bleeding us by 1,000 cuts and is in complete cahoots with the Lashkar-e-Toiba. They started with the Hizbul Mujahideen, then they went to the JUD, and then they went to HUA, and now they're going to LET, because LET has the same recruitment pattern of the Pakistan army, and they can double as cousins of each other, if not real brothers. So the long and short of what I'm saying is, if Mr. Anthony had walked into South Block 3 days ago and then made the statement, I think I would have given him the benefit of doubt. But having been India's defense minister, having seen the Indian army fight the longest war in fighting insurgencies that perhaps any army in the history of the world has fought, and then you turn around and say that I still have doubts whether these guys are Pakistan. By the way, special forces is part of the regular army. Special forces are not God's own kids. They are regular army, they are under control of Rawalpindi, and if anybody has any shade of doubt, please pick up a book on Pakistan army and understand how it works.
I want to know tonight from the Congress representative who is saying that our intention was not to provoke. Mr. Gowda, you thought it was the Venezuelan army wearing Pakistan army uniforms? You thought it was the Colombian army or the Egyptian army wearing Pakistan army uniforms? What was your proof that it was a fancy dress competition? Did you not know? Did you not know? Though it's not a light statement, it's a very serious comment, you should take it seriously. In February 2010, after 26/11, we gave the list of 33 terrorists, Pakistani nationals as well as Indian fugitives to the government of Pakistan. And we saw Salman Bashir, Pakistan's foreign secretary, say this is literature, not evidence. They said it was literature, not evidence. Mr. Gowda, you have given that country which has questioned our evidence an alibi forever. KC Singh wants to come in. Yes.
I'm not even going that far back, though I have experience of dealing with the counter-terrorism mechanism. Let me simply say, 3 days before this, there's a suicide attack on your consulate in Jalalabad. Sources in Kabul say the Pakistan army is involved. Now you don't want to offend them, you don't name them. Then 3 days later, they do this on your border. So how does it help not naming them?
I put that question. Let's get DP Tripathi. Let's get DP Tripathi back. Mr. Tripathi, you know, in the context of the fact that Pakistan has always questioned the credibility of every Indian claim, was this not a very self-destructive, suicidal and dangerous thing to do? To rewrite the first press release in such a manner that gave Pakistan a long rope.
No,
Mr.
I don't.
It's called turning your other cheek.
Let him respond.
I agree, Mr. Goswami. It is not upturn or flip-flop. What happens is a minister works under the system. An experienced diplomat like Mr. KC Singh knows this. Minister's statements don't emanate from his individual imaginations. And so do prime ministers, especially in your relationship with neighbors. One point which I want to make at this time of crisis also, and there has been continuous crisis between India and Pakistan. That I agree with Mr. Maruf Raza. So therefore we have to see certain changes. For the first time, Mr. Goswami, in Pakistan, an elected government has not merely completed 5 years, but
Mr. Tripathi,
a transition has come. There are very contradictory relationships between the army, ISI and the democratic forces in Pakistan. So we should firmly deal with both these aspects of political reality in Pakistan.
Why is it my concern?
And this is not something which government of India is doing wrong.
We don't know who is in
All
control
governments have done this in India.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tripathi, that is Pakistan's problem.
And now the most important
where is Pakistan's problem? How is it my problem? And by the way, Mr. Tripathi, my bigger question is, I see a pattern in this. Because when the Chinese incursions took place in April, the initial reports pointed to an open divergence in the views expressed and informed by the army and that by the Indian government. I remember RPN saying 40 Chinese troops camping in 4 tents is not an intrusion. I remember Mr. Salman Khurshid's rather strange comment that it was only acne. This was the comment and the observations of the Indian government. So Mr. Gowda, the question is this: your government had made similar mistakes in the past, and your government is the same government which 7 months after 26/11 compromised national interest by signing the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement, the joint declaration, in which you completely de-link terror with the composite dialogue process. So there is a pattern. There is a pattern in this, and also brought in Balochistan.
I have to make only 2 or 3 points. Number one, see, here is a case of Obama cancelling his visit to meeting with Putin just on a small pretext of somebody being given asylum. And this is how countries treat other countries when they don't agree with it. Number one. Number two, here is a defense minister who was in China, and the Chinese army chief literally issued a warning to India that
so
if
what's
you
your point to the Congress? What's your point to the Congress?
We are going to punish you.
So what's your point to the Congress representative?
Instead of returning from the meeting, he shook hands, he stayed there, and then not only that, he invited the Chinese army to do business with India. This is absolutely shameful, number one. Number two, Mr. Tripathi was mentioning something about the system. Mr. Maruf Raza will bear me out. The army sends a report from the LOC, it comes to the defense secretary, it comes to the defense minister, there is a statement which is prepared, and then it is shown to the Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister clears it. All the ministers who are in charge of all these things are all in the loop. You see, it is not just a statement of one defense minister. It is the entire government which stands condemned.
I think after this we will go back to the Congress, because I think they have to defend on several points tonight. But before that, once again to Kunal Verma. Rajiv, coming to you.
If you look at the Poonch sector, it is actually absolutely unbelievable what they are saying, because the Poonch sector, we are kind of interlocked with Pakistan like this. There is no question. I mean, there's a post called Langur, for example. Parts of it are held by us, by Pakistan, by us. In Poonch, it is like literally cheek by jowl. If something happens there, it has to be the Pakistan army. What are they splitting hair all about?
And did your government ever think, Mr. Gowda, the impact of all of this on our forces, on the army? Because essentially, Mr. Gowda, why did your government contradict the truth put out by the army? You know, you basically were saying yesterday that the army put out wrong facts in the public domain. By doing so, you have performed a grievous and unforgivable error of accusing your army of putting out falsehoods. The same army which defends us, the same soldiers who defend us, who lay down their lives for us, your government, while building a case for the government of Pakistan and the army of Pakistan, Mr. Gowda, yesterday accused your army of spreading falsehoods. Now, is that not serious, Mr. Gowda? You look exasperated, but that is the fact. You accused the army of spreading falsehoods. Why did you do that?
Arnab, it's a question of clarifying information. We do not want the wrong facts to be aired. We want to make sure that in a sensitive matter like this, the right information is aired. If there is an error, it is unnecessarily controversial.
If you put out a falsehood, it is a truth. And if they put out a truth, Mr. Gowda, by your logic, it is a falsehood.
No. It's a question of clarification. After the clarification of facts, things have been laid out. Now, Arnab, go back to that original statement of the defense minister.
No, 1 second. Your government and your foreign minister said that the army put out the wrong version.
Let me finish, Arnab.
Accept that.
Yeah, so, no, we basically said we need to confirm the facts before the final version. And that's exactly what has happened. Now go back
you
to the
said the army made a mistake.
Look at the number of examples.
Your foreign minister said the army made a mistake.
Look at the number of examples in the statement which show how well the army has done in terms of preventing incursions, in terms of thwarting terrorist attacks. So nobody is saying that the army has not done a great job.
Mr. Gowda,
we are very happy about
Mr.
that.
Gowda,
Instead,
I now have a statement which proves that your government accused the army of putting out wrong facts, and also,
there is no reason,
if I am not mistaken, accused the army of exceeding its brief.
to try to demoralize the army. It is not the government that has done that, and that is you who is trying to demoralize the army. Please cut it out.
Mr. Gowda, you can be sure of the facts, because I am sure of mine. I don't think you're sure of your facts, because I will now read out what your foreign minister said yesterday. Your foreign minister said the army went out with a general view, and then they realized their mistake, and they had to send out a corrected statement, right? And then he also had said yesterday, are you saying that nobody has the right to correct the statement if they think they have exceeded the brief according to the facts they have? This is what your government said yesterday.
Yeah.
How demoralizing is that?
So,
for the army which put out the right facts from Jammu?
Not at all.
That because you want to do your diplomacy, your Sharm el-Sheikh type diplomacy in New York, that's why you will compromise the facts?
Arnab, the facts, as the facts come in, the facts become clear, right? At the very immediate moment, whatever information was available, and there were multiple points of view on that. Now, the defense minister has laid the issue to rest. He has placed the final facts on the table of the House.
Not whatever information was available.
Rebuts. Time for rebuts. The Congress representative's argument. Let him complete. I think he's one versus several. I think we should give him more time. Yeah, let him complete his point. Mr. Gowda, complete your point. I know you are one against several, and you have only one more person supporting you on a panel of 6, so I let you complete your point before I get a rebut. But let me tell you, Mr. Gowda.
It is not one against several. It is all of us for India and for the Indian Army and for the Indian national interest. And it is in the national interest to ensure that we don't break off talks overnight like this. We have to continue. Pakistan is in a very, very delicate situation. The army is out there to try and sabotage
How is it, Mr. Gowda?
You know all
how is it in the national interest?
The cat is out of the bag.
How is it? I just want to tell you. I want to ask you one thing, Mr. Gowda.
You don't want peace with your neighbors?
There was a meeting.
You do not want peace with your neighbors? You do not want peace? I'm asking you the simple question, Arnab Goswami. Is it not in the interest?
Let him complete the point.
To have a peaceful neighborhood? Is it not in the Indian national interest to have peaceful relations with neighbors?
Mr. Gowda, you asked that question, which is essentially a nice and rhetorical question. Do you not want to talk to your neighbors? No, 1 minute. 1 minute. It's not a question of whether you want to talk to your neighbors. It is a question of whether you want to be run over by your neighbors. And the question is, the Pakistani Deputy High Commissioner met the MEA yesterday. That was one version which said we have nothing to do with it. You had another version coming from the army which said the Pakistan army did it. The country is asking you today, Mr. Gowda, tell us, why did you believe the Pakistan Deputy High Commissioner and not your own army? Why did you believe the government of Pakistan and not your own army?
You have 5 boys.
Who do you choose to believe?
You have 5 boys from 21 Bihar who have been killed, and we are sitting here talking about this and that.
Yes.
We should have had immediate retribution on the spot. Leave it to the commanders on the ground. Your young leadership in the army is fantastic. Give them a chance to just hold the ground and see what happens.
More than that, I just want to substantiate another point. There are standard operating procedures, rules of engagement on the LOC. Commanders on the ground do not need permission from higher up to respond to a situation like this up to a point. Even the Corps Commander in 16 Corps, which looks after this area from Poonch downwards right up to Jammu, can even use artillery fire if he so desires and thinks it's appropriate. The whole problem in India is that we have uninformed political leadership who's trying to tell the army what to do.
Exactly.
And you're questioning the integrity of one institution which for 65 years has laid down its life to prove its commitment to the country. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? And you keep saying that the army's version is different. The army has a mechanism to vet out every word that a senior officer signs and puts up to his superior. Whereas here, we have been obsessed since independence with the politics of personalities. We think personalities can turn history around. I am sorry, even diplomatic jargon and diplomatic initiatives need a whole mechanism to work, and Pakistan's system is not working in one direction like we want them to work. Don't you realize that Pakistan is not Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, that you can fly in and have a peace deal with them? Pakistan has a vested interest in keeping India preoccupied with the military dimension of Kashmir, because the military's budgetary incentives come from the conflict levels that they escalate in Kashmir. If we haven't understood that for so long, I'm sorry, we are not on the same page.
So, Mr. Tripathi's turn to respond now. He's been listening patiently. Mr. Tripathi, your response to Maruf Raza on this stage of the debate.
And also the peace talks that
Mr. Tripathi.
I entirely agree with Mr. Maruf Raza on 2 points, which are major points in defense and security management, especially internal security management between two neighboring countries. That is that you cannot have peaceful dialogue without having order on the border.